And this afternoon, the Public Procurement Authority is giving the approval for a transaction advisor to proceed to lead the process of identifying a suitable private sector entity with the requisite technical and financial capability of helping to dispose the Saglemi housing project, which cost the state some $200 million. It follows Cabinet's decision and directive to the Minister for Works and Housing. And the directive is that he's to dispose of the facility at the current value to a private sector entity to complete and sell the housing units to the general public to do further cost-cutting measures and to save the government some funds. But Joy News is learning that a new cost at almost $200 million after the assessment has been done will be required to complete the project. Sector Minister Francis Asenso-Boakye has been speaking to Joy News' Elton Brobe.
So Ghana has a staggering 1.8 million housing deficit, but yesterday a bold attempt was made to reduce it with the launch or the sword-cutting ceremony for the National Affordable Housing Program. The aim is to reduce this deficit and also ensure that people have access to homes, especially for those who are wondering where they will lay their heads after possibly going on retirement or whilst in active service. The minister who is responsible for this novelty joins us here. Francis Asenso-Boakye is also the Member of Parliament for Bantama in the Ashanti region. Honorable Minister, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yesterday was great. I mean, finally the sword cutting was done. The dream of people to own their own home could become a reality in the next 16 months. What went into deciding to go this way? Because we've witnessed in times past how government approached the housing industry and how government approached in terms of building to address the deficit. What went into deciding this model?
Thank you. As I indicated yesterday, this is not the first time government is coming out with an affordable housing program. We experienced one under President John Ejikumpufo, where 5,000 houses were supposed to build in 6 towns in Ghana.
Right.
But it didn't achieve the expected results because of issues associated with the project conception and funding. It's an issue of Saglemi, which also didn't achieve the expected results.
I guess we'll come to that very soon.
That's okay. When I assumed office, I thought it was important for us to review these attempts by successive governments and why they have not been able to achieve the expected results. And one of the things that we found out that government, first of one, was that there was no serious feasibility studies that were conducted for the last 2 major affordable housing programs, and therefore we didn't really establish the viability of the project before we committed funds to it. For instance, the issue of that of President Gov't Affordable Housing Program, when President Gov't left office, it was easy for the new administration to abandon it,
right?
Because no dedicated funds was good for that. The same as Saglemi. It's obvious that not enough work was done in terms of feasibility studies and all that. Secondly, we realized that for the 2 projects, it was the responsibility of government to find land, infrastructure, and the housing units itself, including the sale of the units. All these were going to be done by the government.
100% government responsibility.
Yes. But this one, there's a complete departure. This one, government is only subsidizing these affordable housing homes so that it becomes affordable, so to say, for the ordinary Ghanaians too. How did we come by that? You realize that statistics shows that 60% of Ghanaians require some sort of assistance from the state to be able to access housing. That 35% can actually not access housing at all, even with government support.
Meaning they can never own their own home.
Of course, I mean, of course, but that's reasonable. Even in America, a lot of people, there are even homeless people in America.
Right.
Exactly. So, and only 5% of Ghanaians can access their own house, build or buy houses on their own without support. So government decided to target the 60% of Ghanaians who needs government support. And how can government support? We look at the various components of housing construction. The costs. Land is key.
Right.
Infrastructure services on the land is key. But these are the areas that we thought government can easily absorb. Of course, government has some public land that we can leverage on, which we are currently doing. The Pokuasi land was a government public land, which the president decided that let's use it for housing for Ghanaian people. And the infrastructure on the land, roads, electricity, water, and sewage, drainage. These are traditional responsibilities of government.
Right.
So we are leveraging on it to reduce the cost of construction. It's believed that these can even constitute about between 30 to 40% of the construction cost. Once that is reduced, then it becomes affordable. So that we invite the private sector to come in and build and sell. Okay, that is the model.
That's the model, right?
And that is the prevailing model across many parts of the continent that we are using, because we all acknowledge the important role of the private sector in everything that we are doing, so that government and the private sector will form a partnership to produce this affordable home. That is the striking difference between what has been happening in the past and what we're currently trying to
do. So in the past, government contributed everything. Exactly. Now government is contributing only the land and the other amenities that should come with it. And it is the developer to now provide the rest.
Exactly.
That is how come we are seeing, for some, the pricing appears to be on the low side compared to how much.
Of course, because we believe strongly that it will contribute to the reduction of the construction cost by up to 40%. Okay, so that will mean that the price of the building can also be reduced by up to 40%.
We'll come into who qualifies and how somebody can apply to own a home when it is done, hopefully in October 2024. But yesterday we were told that the entire sum runs up to $550 million US. Is that the figure?
Well, I don't know who gave you that figure. I didn't say that.
Right.
But what I know is that government funding of the infrastructure aspect of the project is going to cost the state $47 million. $47 million. That is the infrastructure side. The rest, which is the housing units itself, are going to be funded by the private sector entities. They are going to raise their own money and build and sell. All right.
So the amount involved, I mean, this has been worked by a cross section of the public, especially those who are looking forward to owning them in the future. But then also some have also questioned why you would not put that resources into completing, especially the Saglemi housing project, which has been outstanding for some time now. Why wouldn't you want to finish that, sell them out before starting a new one? But what is your response to those who are demanding this clarity?
Okay, that's a very good one. But since you have jumped into Saglemi, it means you are not coming back to the.
No, we'll come back. We'll come back to that. We'll come to look at the details in terms of
the issue of Saglemi. It's not a simple matter.
Right.
And if you give me time, I'd like to provide some information.
Absolutely.
So that people will understand it. The government of Ghana in 2012 contracted a private developer under a loan agreement which Parliament approved for the contractor to construct 5,000 affordable housing homes in Saglemi at a cost of $200 million.
Right.
Everything was Parliament approved, contracts were signed, implementation agreements were signed and all that. At the end of the stipulated completion date, only 1,500 houses had been produced out of the 5,000. And even that 1,500, they were at different stages of completion. Some were at 90%, some were at 5% foundation level. Okay. And none of them, even assuming one of them was even 100% complete, nobody could even live in that building. The place were not habitable.
Even as we speak?
Of course, even then and now, the place is not habitable. And why am I saying that? There's no access to water, there's no access to electricity, serious sewage challenges there. So there's no off-site infrastructure where you are connecting water from a water source to the site, no electricity connection to the site. So it's not habitable. Okay. Then it was there that the previous minister realized that something was wrong, and police were invited to investigate, and after the investigation they recommended for prosecution of certain individuals. But when I assumed office, and that was the time that the investigation had been completed and the court processes, I wrote to the Attorney General to ask for permission to going to start the process of reviving the project, right, regardless of the court proceeding, which the Attorney General gave us the go ahead. Then we put together experts, to advise us on how much it will cost and all that. Then we realized that connecting water from the nearest water source to the site to cater for the 1,500 housing units was going to cost government $30 million. Water alone. In fact, Ghana Water Company their estimate was even higher, much higher than Community Water and Sanitation. And these are public agencies. Electricity, you got the estimate from ECG, $8 million to connect electricity from the nearest source to that site.
Or outside the already $200 million that had gone into it?
Yes. The $200 million had been spent already, yet they were only able to produce only 1,500 who were not habitable. Okay. The estimates they provided for off-site infrastructure alone, we needed $46 million to provide off-site infrastructure. Now, apart from that, there are on-site works. Okay, these 1,005 units that are at various stages of completion. In fact, some had deteriorated, needed to fix some of them and all that. The estimate was that from AESL, you needed almost, it was $29 million. There is a serious sewage system there that was not fixed. That one is 8,000.
So you are looking at almost $100 million.
There's a serious drainage challenge, without which it will be very difficult to live there. That one is $5 million. So the on-site works alone, including some amenities which will make it possible for people to live there, like school, like 1,500. If you put people there and you don't build a school, it will not make sense. Exactly. So when you put all that together, it was going to cost the state $140 million.
$140 million
to be able to revive the Saglemi Affordable Housing Project. And even with that, look at the distance. It's more than 2.5 hours from Accra to get there. Assuming government had the money and used that extra money to fix it, who is going to buy that property and live there, especially in that majority of Ghanaians are working in the city center? It's going to be difficult. Meanwhile, I had the program that I had presented to government, which we were able to launch yesterday. It's going to cost government $47 million to produce 8,000 affordable housing units. If that is done, it will be unprecedented. No government has successfully done that. But because it's a public-private partnership, government's commitment is just $47 million. The rest is going to be invested by the private sector, and they will build and sell. So that is the difference. That's the difference. Let me ask you a question. If you are a manager of state resources and you are confronted with these scenarios, $47 million to produce 8,000 houses at a location that is just about 20 minutes drive from the city center, and $140 million to complete 1,500 units at a location that is 2 hours, 30 minutes, and even more from the city center, where will you put your money to? At a time that is difficult to raise funds globally, after COVID and the Russian invasion of Iraq.
Well, I mean, from my own point of view, I think that in terms of value for money, you go for the new initiative that you launched. But again, the question people will ask is, so therefore, what happens with Saglemi? Is it going to just be left like that?
Earlier, I had come out to announce a cabinet decision, and I think President, when he was speaking, even confirmed that. Government thought it would be a good idea to invite a private sector entity to come in and invest. A private sector entity that has the financial standing and also the technical know-how to be able to change the whole project and make it attractive. Okay, there are other lands, you know, as part of the Saglemi housing project that they can take advantage of and do new development, build a whole community and make the place attractive with other amenities.
All right.
Yes.
So today, for example, we're told that the PPA has opened up.
Exactly. We sought the approval of the PPA to give us the chance to select some reputable transaction advisors to lead the process. We have started the process. Very soon, once we select it, the transaction advisor is going to guide the government or the ministry through the process. Because it's important that we ensure transparency and accountability at every process. I remember when I first announced that government is seeking a private sector entity to take over and complete it. Some people, you know, say that we are going to sell it to family and friends and all that. That was quite unfortunate. Nobody's interested in that. But we are interested in bringing a private sector entity that has the capacity financially and the technical know-how to take the project forward and revive it and make it a viable project.
Well, and I guess the issue relating to whether or not those who were at the helm of affairs at the time did a good job is the reason why they are before court.
Exactly.
So let's move away from that and then now look at the National Affordable Housing Program, and then the feasibility studies that in your estimation was not done right in terms of Saglemi. This project, and I've heard the use of local materials for the building, the issue about water and electricity. Have all of this been done to ensure that it does not suffer what previous projects have?
No, like I said, thorough feasibility studies were done. In fact, it was a requirement before Finance Ministry will commit funds to. And after the feasibility studies, it went before a panel of experts who sat on it and approved it before the Ministry of Finance committed funds to it. Of course, I did mention the use of local materials. That's one of the strategies we want to adopt to address the housing deficit, housing issues in the country. Because one of the reasons why it costs so much is because all our building materials, raw materials, are imported. And it's become even difficult lately because of the current global crisis.
So what kind of indigenous raw materials are we talking about?
I'm talking about, for now, the burnt bricks, clay, which we have huge deposits in many parts of the country, in the Ashanti region, in the Central region, in the Bonafo region. But unfortunately, they are still expensive.
Right.
Okay. It's because the industry is not developed. We want to use this project as a catalyst for people to realize that, hey, this burnt bricks can be used. People develop interest in it, develop the taste for it, because many people don't want to use the burnt bricks. If we are able to create demand for it, it will also create supply for it, and we can have mass production, and we can enjoy economies of scale And in that case, the prices of these raw materials, benefits, will come down. Then we develop the raw material, the local building materials industry, so that the average cost will come down, and it will help in our local housing industry.
State Housing Corporation is one of the contractors or one of the developers that have taken advantage of this and is working on. Apart from the state housing, we understand that the others are from the private sector.
Yeah, they are all from the private. State housing pretty much is a private sector. It's owned by the state, all right, but it's in the market to make profit. Yeah. And
the 60% that you are targeting, that you want to address their housing needs. Now let's look at the cost. Studio around 20,000.
One bedroom
20,000. 20,000. Two bedroom 30-something thousand.
34,000.
And then 3 bedroom. So what is the financing arrangement? Is it a case that's going to be a one-off payment, or they'll have to pay it within a certain period of time?
Okay, so the Ministry of Finance has a program called Home Ownership Fund. That one is a blended financing arrangement between the government and some selected banks. That government subsidizes the banks to provide mortgage arrangement, mortgage facilities to workers or any person who has a dedicated source of income. Okay, that fund is going to help finance 10% of these housing units.
Okay.
Originally, the idea was to do more, but we are all aware of our current financial situation. So government is not going to be able to provide a lot more subsidies as we had envisaged. But for now, 10%. We have worked with the unions, many of them have decided to provide offtake for these housing units for their members, teachers, nurses, GHs200m Trades Union.
Okay.
Yesterday.
So it's not only for the public sector?
No, not only for the public sector. Yesterday, GHs200m came there with a bus load of its members, very excited and ready to offtake. Okay, and the developers and the banks also have their own arrangement for certain payment arrangement, so that as many people as possible can access this.
So in this case, how do you protect those who are really deserving of it? It doesn't go into the situation where somebody probably may have so much resources.
No. It's very important, and it's one of the things that we have put in place mechanism to avoid, because you don't want a situation where rich people like Elton John go and buy 5 states. Yeah, but you put in mechanism. First of all, you have an income-based eligibility criteria, so that if you earn a certain amount, you'll be disqualified. Secondly, you have a no resale policy. Once you buy it, you cannot sell.
And if you want to?
If you want to.
You sell it back to the developer?
Well, you cannot, because the idea is that you want to avoid a situation where someone will just come and buy 10 and resell it to. So once you buy it, you cannot sell.
Okay.
Third, nobody will be allowed to buy more than one.
Okay.
Yeah. So it happens in many countries. When I went to South Africa, and this one was not just affordable housing, it was actually free housing from people who were living in slum areas. The government there had provided, some basic housing units for them. Yet people wanted to sell them. Okay. So they had put in place this mechanism to make sure that you cannot resell and all that. So we learn from what is happening, best practices happening in other parts of the world, and we are replicating that here.
And again, one key issue is about political influence.
Exactly, but this one is the private sector that is selling. So if you go to Gov't, you have your money, you qualify, you sell. I cannot say that I'm the minister and ask Gov't to give it to my cousin or my party boy. No, they won't allow it, because it's private sector money that is being invested. Yes.
So today we've been told about the price range. do you have the guarantee that in October next year, when the project is done, the price will remain the same?
Oh yeah, and one of the reasons why I have an unfortunate situation of having to quote it in dollars. That's the reason, because
exactly.
It's just for planning purposes, given our current situation. But nobody is going to pay it in dollars. You pay it at equivalent. So the dollar, facing it in dollars, we have to check again these price fluctuations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honorable, let me now take you into your previous life. When you worked in the US, you worked in a similar environment.
Yes.
I'm looking at the long-term solution to our housing crisis. And as a minister, what do you consider to be the long-term solution? Have we started the process already with this housing program?
We started the process. I want to look at this in two ways. The use of local building materials. That is crucial. Because as long as we import building materials, even transportation costs alone, Elton, is with respect crazy.
Right.
And after COVID and Russia invasion, we all know the impact on transportation costs. Then again, having to import it, use foreign exchange to import it and all that has a huge burden on the final price here. So that is one of the reasons why we want to use this program to encourage the use of building materials, so that Ghanaians can even develop the taste for it. Many people wouldn't want to use the bent bricks, for instance. Many people.
If you go to places like London, that's what you see.
They do.
Especially.
Exactly.
Residential areas.
Where the school in the US that I attend, every part is covered with bent bricks. And it's even the ambience is amazing. And when you use that in a very hot area, you don't even need air conditioning there. So it comes with a lot of benefits. But gradually, we have started program with, for instance, the producers and some event organizers who want to do sensitization across the country, so that Ghanaians will develop the taste with a view to developing the market for it, so that the prices will come down. That is one. The other side is also financial. Financing is an integral part of housing development. And you mentioned that I was involved in housing development in America. Yes, it's true. The advantage that they have is that they have a strong, credible mortgage regime. Okay. A couple of months ago, I had the opportunity to speak at a program in Abuja of housing ministers. And I was telling them that one of the things that the finance ministers can help with is to help secure long-term capital. In Ghana, all the banks that we have, they are all commercial banks.
Right.
Their main source of income is the deposits you and I put there. That cannot give you a long-term mortgage financing. But if they work with the development finance institution, what they call the DFIs, and for instance, you get commercial bank to attract some long-term funding for commercial bank, that they can provide mortgage for over 30 years, 35 years.
Right.
Many Ghanaians can access homes because your salary, maybe you'll be paying about a third of your salary every month, so you complete it in 30 years. That is why in America and in Europe, in the UK, anybody who starts working after a couple of years
can own their own home.
Can own. And you are in, then you are that is the long term. Look at long term financing. The other side I've mentioned the local building material. These are the two key areas that I believe government must look at.
And is there a plan to extend this to the other regions, knowing very well beyond Kumasi and beyond Accra and Kumasi, land may not be as expensive as we have it here? Do you have the plan of making it happen in the other regions?
Certainly, but this program has two projects. Initial two projects. The second one is in Kumasi, the Day Swap.
Yes.
Which is after Durban area. That we are currently working on this feasibility studies, and we'll get the approval and then we do it. The plan, when it's successful, means that we will get to replicate in that parts of the country so that people can also benefit from those areas as well.
My final question will be, you've given yourself up to October 2024.
Did you say October?
We had 16 months. 16 months.
Yeah, by the 10th of next year.
By the 10th of next year.
The plan, if all things go on well, the plan is that by the 10th of next year, end of next year, we would have finished about half of the units so that people can start living in them.
All right. So, for example, today in Parliament, the committee that has oversight over the ministry, the Works and Housing Committee, held a news conference. The ranking member said that he is hoping that this will be done within the time frame provided, and that it will not end up like the other projects. They also asked whether parliamentary approval is required for some of the works to start. I don't know whether you want to respond to these questions.
Yeah, I want to respond. Yeah, I mean, hopefully, if everything goes well, we should be able to complete, I mean, as many units as possible so that people can come. We have structured in such a way that we don't want to wait till all the 8,000 units to finish before people can start living in them.
Right.
Yeah, we have staggered it incrementally so that at a point people can live in them. I don't think it's the Western Housing Committee. It's the minority side of the committee. That
Exactly. That held the news conference.
Parliamentary approval. Yes. There's only one parliamentary approval that is before Parliament, and it's because one of the developers is a foreign company,
The
Moroccan company, and therefore, because it's a Moroccan company and taking part in this, you have to seek parliamentary approval. But the rest are not foreign companies, so no need for parliamentary approval for them. And the project itself does not need parliamentary approval. It's not a loan. The government of Ghana money. You don't need parliamentary approval to start the project.
All right. Yeah. So my final will be, so as you look into the camera, what are you telling the 60% you've identified? What is the message for them as they look forward to this big project?
So this is a government public-private partnership. Government has provided the land and the infrastructure so that the private sector has been invited to come and build and sell. It's purely a private sector sales arrangement. Anybody who is interested, the companies are there: State Housing, Devs Traco, Rehoboth, from Pulse and Adoha. The numbers are running all over social media. I will encourage everybody who is interested to call these companies and start having an arrangement with them so that you can access your own home. This is the best time that you can access a home for yourself.
Mr. Minister, thank you very much for the opportunity.